This is Dave Snowball. Good to see you all, or at least good to see as many of you as are up on the top of my screen right now. I'm the head of the Communication Studies department. The department has 3 different programs that operate within it. Communication Studies, which is the sort of traditional core where we'll study things that range from the underlying processes of communication, but then also things like health communication or political or intercultural comm. The second big part of the program is multimedia journalism and mass communication, which is home both to media studies and to our journalism program. And one of my colleagues, Dave Schwartz, is with us here, and he'll say hi on behalf of that part of the program. And then the final chunk is our newest member, which is entertainment media. We actually have a full-fledged film production program and a film studies program that are part of the department. And while they are nominally 3 different programs, they share a bunch of things in common, right? We tend to be pretty enthused about high engagement classes. We like a lot to hear from our students because we recognize that this works only to the extent that it's working for them, right? If it makes sense to them, if they're growing, we're winning. And so pretty much all of what we do kind of works back from their experience and their needs. Having said that, I'm happy to let you know that 2 of our majors are on the call with us today. Noelle de la Cruz, who is sort of waving there, and Tessa, whose computer broke, and so she has a cell phone propped up on, like, oh dear God, I don't know what she has the cell phone propped on, but Tessa's the blonde one, working from her phone. We thought at some point you might actually rather talk with them than us. So that's kind of the big picture of the department. We don't have a real formal presentation planned. What we wanted to do instead was to work from what made sense to you. So before we go there, I thought I would ask the other David if he had a second to say hi, and then ask Noelle and Tessa to introduce themselves, just so you know a little bit more about them. Does that work, David?
Perfect, I'm ready. Hi everybody, how are you? Hopefully doing well. Can you hear me okay? Nod, smile, perfect. Very good. So it's good to see you. It's good to see anybody at this point. It's just nice to make some contact. And so, like Dr. Snowball said, I teach in the multimedia journalism and mass communication side of the major. And we try to do in our department is have a real mix of the real world and the textbook. So you get all the foundation and what you should be knowing, but we're a really hands-on forward type of program. Got some new equipment this year, what we call Simple Tech, new mics, new stands, new all types of sorts of things. And the ultimate goal is, 1, for you to understand how the field works, and then number 2, to have an appreciation for it, and number 3, to land a job. And so we try to cover all of those types of angles as we come together. So once you are on the Augie campus, you start looking at things like what kind of courses are being offered, and you'll see things like law and theory and history and all those important things, but also a lot of courses where you are really getting out of the classroom and taking the skills that you know and applying them to the real world. So I'm excited to answer any sorts of questions that you might have. So for now, I'll just turn that over to you guys and let you take charge of the boat.
Hey, Tessa, why don't you unmute and say hi if you could, buddy?
Okay, so I'm Tessa. I'm a junior currently, soon to be a senior. I'm a major in communications and a minor in art. And on campus, I'm in a sorority and I work for the football team. So it's a little bit about me.
Cool. Noelle, you're up.
Hi, my name is Noelle. I'm currently a sophomore, but will be a rising junior in the fall. Along with my communication studies major, I'm also a business administration management major. I actually just recently decided to be a comm major just because of Snowball's class. I just really like how we can analyze more deeply into the things that we don't really think about. So that's another reason that I love communications in general.
Cool beans. Thank you. Hey guys, do you have questions for us? What type of things could we tell you? Cool beans.
Wonderful. Well, if I could hop in, one thing to say about that is one thing that we like about our program is you could start working for our student news organizations from day one when you come in. We have a very robust and strong arts and culture department in the Observer, which is the student news organization of Augustana College, plus there are multiple radio stations on campus. And in some programs, you first have to be, into the college, but then admitted into the sub-department within the college, and then you can start working at the publications or online or wherever it is that you want to work. Augustana falls under the category of colleges in which the experiences can start right away. So the Observer, for example, does run weekly reviews of shows, of movies, of music and whatnot. So it's a really good place to cut your teeth. And they're so welcoming. It's great. It is a student-run organization. A couple of us, meaning faculty, oversee it to make sure they're kind of stay on course. But otherwise, the students really guide what gets to get covered. So it really keeps your voice and your flavor, and you don't have to get pigeonholed into something you don't want to do. If you come in and you really want to work in arts, for example, you'd say, I want to work in arts. And if they have an opening, then that's where you'll go. They won't say, well, why don't you go instead take pictures and cover business? Like, no, that's not what you want to do. So it's a really good chance to start getting some experience from the moment you walk in the door.
I was wondering about was
Sure.
AP credits. I'm in AP Lit and Composition. So I was wondering if that credit would transfer in for this major.
And so AP credits, and Mike can help with this because he's master of the detail. AP credits generally have two functions. They can transfer in as elective credits at the college, and they can help you complete particular sort of general education prerequisites. In general, and I can check with David as well, I don't think we have many instances where AP credits have made a meaningful contribution to one of the majors, because the work tends to be kind of specialized, right? There's particular things that you need to know, and whether it's about videography or propaganda. But since Mike has the big picture, why don't I ask him to save us?
Yeah, so I threw in a link to our advanced placement policy in the chat. The good thing is that in recent years, Augustana has added the English to Lit Comp courses as transferable with an AP score of 4 or 5, but it will transfer in as elective credit. So it will not apply directly to major requirements within like Comp Studies or MJMC, but a good way to give yourself a little boost in terms of credit standing during your time at Augie. So it can kind of free up your schedule to take maybe some other courses that you have an interest in. So
Piggyback on what David and Mike said also, plenty of MJMC students, plenty of journalism students benefit from their AP classes, from their overall college experience, in which, like they were saying, it could knock out another elective that you need for the graduation requirement. But there are no specific AP credits for journalism itself. But it does benefit the students, just not for the 30 credits that you would need for the major. It's interesting that you brought up Disney. I wish she was here. I was trying to get Gabby Langer, who's one of our students. I was trying to get her to join us today, and she just couldn't. But that is, she's a junior in our department, and that is exactly her goal as well. It is her goal to get into the Disney family, and she wants to be a screenwriter. That's her ambition, and so she is doing both the journalism side of things, which we do, and then that new entertainment minor that Dr. Snowball was talking about as well. She's piggybacking that on top of her curriculum. So that is what she is. That's what she's shooting for. So you're in good company. She's a good student. Do journalism students cover real work stories in their own or as a class? The answer to that is yes and yes. So for example, when we have we call it the sequence, but it's a sequence of skills courses. And if I'm understanding your question correctly, the stories that you're producing in there, you're working, you can either collaborate or you can work on them on your own. They have been published in different places. They have been broadcast in certain places, and you are expected to go out and talk to actual sources. You are trained on how to use the equipment, whether it's new software, whether it's updated, who knows what that we're happy to be bringing into the room, whether it's social or podcasting or just the good old fashioned beautiful written word. Yeah, you're expected to do real stories, and you critique them, and you do drafts of them, and you're expected to hit deadlines when it's that kind of a class. But first we actually work on the craft of it itself, so that you first get the concepts, and then we send you out into the world.
Wanted to pick up on one of the points that David had made, which is that his student is looking at both having a major in MJ and a minor in entertainment media. And one of the things that we like about our academic majors is we designed them intentionally to be smaller than average. At a lot of schools, about a third of your time is spent within your academic major. And because so much of your time is in that individual major, you have very little flexibility to explore other options. And it's always occurred to us that that's crazy. You know, our general view is that as you go through your years at college, you're going to discover opportunities you don't know exist now, and we don't want you to have closed those doors by declaring one major and not being able to look at other stuff that you might be passionate about. So both COM and MJ are about, David, 28 credits at your end?
Yeah, 30. We're 30.
So COM is 28, MJ is 30, which is to say a quarter or less of your college experience, which then makes it easy for people to double major from either of our programs. So about 64, 65% of the majors that we have at least 2 academic majors, and those include a wide variety of film, from Spanish and Chinese on the one hand to psychology and political science. Many kids will do business and then one of the 2 programs, and a fair number of students choose to participate in both MJ and in COM. That is, they'll double major between the 2 ends of the department. And the programs are distinct enough that those are actually additive benefits. It's not just like there's only 2 extra courses you have to take in order to complete the journalism major. No, they're complementary, but they're very compatible. It's very easy to do together. And we think that helps a lot, right? Because what it means is for a senior in MJ or for a senior in COM, you're not just bringing one set of insights and one set of literature and one set of passions into play. As a journalist who knows philosophy, or a journalist who knows political science, or a journalist who, in the case of several of our graduates, are deeply or richly bilingual, you have all sort of ways of understanding and communicating about the world that you never would have if you only had one major and in one department. And so it's easy peasy to do both, and we intend to keep it that way. Does that feel about right, David?
Yeah, spot on.
What are you thinking, Tessa? Is that your experience too, buddy?
Yeah, so just from a student's perspective, I didn't come into Augie planning to be a comm major, just because I wasn't really sure what I wanted. And then I actually declared as a sophomore, just because I spent some time my freshman year doing some perspectives and exploring a little bit, and ended up with comm my sophomore year. And at the end of my junior year, I'm almost done with my major, if that tells you how fast you can really finish things up and explore other things, and even major or minor and other stuff.
Hey, Noelle, you're doing a pretty common double major, that is with business. Do you want to talk to the folks at all about what the world is for someone who's initially a business major?
Yeah, so my main plan was business management, but as I came in, I've been told that comm kind of comes easy to me. So I took a few comm classes my freshman year that also counted as perspective. So I was able to take some things that I needed and explore a little bit more in the comm world. And I already took maybe about 3 classes that I needed for the comm major. And I actually declared maybe like a month ago for my comm.
Mm-hmm.
And like Tessa said, like it's only such little credits that you are able to do like business management majors or any other majors that interest you, which I think is super awesome.
Cool. And you certainly can take more than 28 or 30 credits. It's just with just 28 or 30, you hit enough to complete the major. A lot of folks, though, will go and take a lot more because they get excited and they want more classes as a senior. So
I'll do a shameless plug as well. So I'm an Augie grad and I was a comp studies major myself, so, and business. So you can do it and you can have a career, and there's a lot of things that you can explore. So, and Augie's comp studies program was not on my radar right away either. So just know that there is a lot of variety within it. And I think some students maybe want to take, obviously, the journalism route. Others want to get into editing, publishing, writing. Others just enjoy the public speaking aspect of it. But many students, I think, have kind of the sociological, socioeconomic, and kind of anthropology or psychology element too that they have an interest in. So there's a lot of interdisciplinary work, and I think that's the more exciting part about the program, is that it is so adaptive to any and all experiences that our students can have, because we all need to communicate, or we need to communicate more effectively. So let's learn how to do that. So and connect people, which is important. So that's my shameless plug. Sorry.
we appreciate your plug. Two things had occurred to me, and I'll go poke David in a minute about it. One of which is we also have a really good creative writing program. One of the folks in creative writing, Brett Biebel, is among the coolest human beings on the planet. He's sort of energy and positivity sort of all wrapped up. It's like a little happy hurricane passing through the room when Brett is around. And he's worked in publishing as well as worked as a teacher, and is really very good at it. We have an on-campus magazine called Saga, which is one of the outlets for students who are kind of interested in it. So you might find that you would like a combination of things like creative writing as well as MJ. The other thing that we have that many of the kids in journalism are interested in is a graphic design program, because you're right, there's an intense visual design element. There's kind of a sensitivity to what you see. And Kelvin and Vicky, who run graphic design and who are located kind of in between David's office and mine, do remarkably good work at it. And both of them, like David and like Brett, bring industry experience to the position. Dave, did you want to chip in anything, sir?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, I was really excited to hear you mention Vogue. Teen Vogue is amazing. Shifted from this sort of stereotypical teen magazine, fashion, relationships, whatever, to become this real political force. So I can see why you're drawn to Vogue and perhaps Teen Vogue as well. That's amazing. The other place my mind went, and Dr. Snowball touched on this as well, is the graphic design program. And in just the last year and a half, two of our journalism students have, for a class project, created the pilot, I guess, or the launch of their own magazine for a class project, Brady and Kevin. And it's just been amazing to see them combine their ability to create content and then to be able to put that into a magazine form that can attract customers and eyeballs, all those important things. So I'm excited to hear that is what excites you, because that is a really thoughtful, important way to go. And yeah, and so also publishing, I think another MJMC instructor, Carolyn Yasher, she's not on this call today, but she was in book publishing before she went back to graduate school. And she, like I do, come from a professional background. I took a non-traditional track to teaching at Augustana, and that I worked for 15 years in media and journalism and strategic communication before going back to get the PhD so I could teach. And so we like to think anyway that we try to blend this understanding of like the current media climate with having been there, with the tools that Augie gives us to help you teach yourself how to function and succeed in this, this current climate.
And Noelle and
There's
Tessa,
a
what have been your
question.
favorite classes?
Yep, I was just about to go for that one. I don't even know if I can pick a favorite. So all of the classes, I feel like for me have opened up like a whole new window into communication. Like last semester, I took a health communication class, which is, I mean, public health is really like a subject I never really looked into before, but then my eyes were just open to like the whole world of it and how comm is really intertwined with like the medical field and stuff like that. And this semester, I'm actually in a class with Snowball that's about propaganda, and it's almost like a history class, and you're learning all these ways how they use the rhetoric to appeal to people, and it's just very interesting, and all of them are so different. It's a never-ending world, really, in the comm department.
I don't think I could pick any specific, but if I had to say two, I'd go with social relationships. This was a really interesting class for me because I was able to like really in-depth learn about the things that you think about every day, like why do people feel lonely specifically during these times, or why are people happy when these things happen. So it was just really good insight as to the main things that we do every day always has reasons, and I think that was super cool to learn. And Snowball's class that I'm in right now also is advertising and consumer culture. And me and my mom actually had such a heated argument the other day about ads. From taking his class, I think ads are super important now, and like what they portray and the meanings behind them. But my mom hates watching ads, like all of us do, like on Netflix or whatever, that come up on Hulu or whatever. But I just like how you can think outside of the box and how some things affect the way that they do, like masculinity or femininity or anything like that.
I don't know if you saw the note in the chat window. I may have forgotten to mention the new course. If you liked interpersonal in the social relationships course, Dr. Varallo is going to teach a new course called The Dark Side of Interpersonal Communication for the first time this year. It's at the 300 level, and you might enjoy it. It's sort of, the question is sort of, how does communication go bad? Like whether it's in a dating relationship or within a family, what does kind of pathological look like? How do things fall apart? What happens when they do? What can we do about them? So it's kind of the opposite of her general cheerful approach to things.
Sounds interesting to me. I think I have to check it out.
Cool.
One thing I learned when I went to the open house for the scholarship competition was I heard that there are new courses, I think in creative writing, that are specifically targeted to publishing and editing. Is there anything like that within communication studies that's specifically targeted to that? Or is it more building that foundation throughout?
There's, well, an MJ, if you don't mind me hopping in, there's,
Go for it.
not toward publishing, and I would definitely encourage you to check in with that department for more details about what that is that they are producing. But on the MJ side of things, we have created a new course for the fall on strategic communication. So journalism students, when they graduate from college, they report a really high quality of life. They're really satisfied with what they've got, but only about 20% go into actual journalism. The other 80% use their skills to do journalistic type work, but in different industries, right? So it might be in entertainment or publishing or the culinary arts or who knows what. And so we created this new class to help push those types of students to use their skills, but in new different directions that we call strategic communication, which is kind of like a catch-all for all sorts of things, whether it's, nonprofits or advertising or marketing, any crisis communication, any sort of things. So we are always looking at our curriculum to make sure that it's current, to make sure that it's giving the students what they need, but also what they want. So does it scratch that creative itch? Probably not in the way that you're asking, but it's always important to bring, a creative element when you are thinking about how to incorporate content producing and writing. And so the new courses do involve that.
Perfect. What level would the new course be?
It's 200 level. It's a perspective course. So we are actually holding a good number of seats for it for this coming year for first years. So we expect there to be mostly first years and sophomores and also some juniors.
We're kind of chatting off in the corner about some of her interest, which involve kind of investigative journalism or journalism that does something other than just sort of report on what the press release had said. One of the things that occurred to me is that your student journalists probably have more freedom than a lot of high school journalists are used to. And I think your folks have also received a lot of statewide recognition for the work they had done. And I didn't know if you could talk a little bit about that sort of journalism that's, you know, more entrepreneurial or more enterprise-based.
Yeah, and really it's a credit to what our students have taught themselves to do and what their ambitions have been. So the last 2 or 3 years, the Observer staff, again, all students, and what they've wanted to do is they've wanted to start doing these deeper dives into some really important hot button, some I call controversial, but I don't think that's the right word for it. These types of issues that have meaning to people, can really matter in people's lives. And so they've formed reporting teams and these conglomerations of photographers and writers and reporters and editorial cartoonists, and have put together these special issues in which they look at things like student health, violence, those types of issues that are really important, and they will take months on them to report. And they will plan out their coverage over a long period of time to make sure that when it's time to execute, when the video goes up, when the issue comes out, this is work that has an impact. Now, one thing that's interesting and really notable about this is that this is not something that you can do at a lot of private liberal arts colleges. There are others, but a lot of them you can't, because what happens is, in a sense, the publisher is the college, and they think of it oftentimes, not at Augie, thank goodness, they think of the student publication as a newsletter or a yearbook instead of a news organization. And so they'll clamp down, and they will not want them to write about things that are controversial, that might make them look bad. Instead, Augie leadership, Augustana leadership, is incredibly supportive of student media. And while they might feel uncomfortable by what gets reported sometimes, they have never not supported them in letting them report truthfully and authentically. And that has allowed them to create these entrepreneurial projects over time. And these projects lead to change, which is the most important thing, awareness, and also some really nice awards around the state.
Asked about JTerm classes. What should they take?
Mhm.
Well, Noelle or Tessa, any recommendations?
I actually went and used my study abroad credit or Augie Choice this past JTerm, but something to keep in mind for JTerm classes is that you're going to be sitting in that class for a really long time, like 5 days a week or 4 days a week, however it's scheduled. So just make sure that it's a subject that seems really, really intriguing to you, because they're long classes.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't necessarily have to be a comm-related course, but if that's something that does interest you, that's a good way to aim your studies towards. But I took a class that filled the perspective that I needed and also interested me. So, I mean, sitting in class wasn't all that bad, but the 3 hours is definitely a really long time to just be sitting in there. So yeah, something that interests you is a good idea to keep in the back of your head.
For example, that the dean of the college is teaching sexual communication. She's team teaching it in January, and that course was went so well. There were literally people who cried on the last day because the class was over. The president of the college is teaching the art of fundraising, and Steve has raised $500 million, so he's fairly good at it. David, who's at the other end of the call, teaches a media literacy course that tries to answer the question, how did that stuff ever get on my screen in the first place, and should I believe it? That is really something that almost anyone could be up to, should be up to.
Yeah, and I forget, I think it's Tessa, you mentioned that you used Augie Choice, right? So some of the publications that you mentioned that you have an interest in, they're based on the coasts, right? A lot of publishing, it's New York or it's San Francisco, some in Chicago as well. But one of the places that our students have gone the last few years is they've spent a term in New York, because that's where a lot of the big media companies are based. And so Mike can probably speak more about Augie Choice than I can, but they've used their Augie Choice to go help offset some of the cost of what it is to live in New York. But in doing so, they make some pretty amazing connections. One interned at CBS and helped the CBS morning show, and now has Oprah in his contacts in his phone, and is doing really well for himself. And that might not have been possible if he hadn't wisely used Augie Choice. So it's such a great resource.
Being here today, a big thank you to Dr. Snowball and Dr. Schwartz, as well as Noelle and Tessa. So thank you guys very much. And for everyone else, we'll talk to you later. All right.
Great. Take great care, guys.
Yeah, thank you
Bye,
all.
everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.